My friend Jeannie and I had been friends since we were kids because we lived next door. Jeannie's family was better off. She was the only favorite daughter in the family. Her dad was a businessman and her mom was a doctor. So she always had more toys, gadgets, clothes, and I had a good imagination, so I was always figuring out how and where to play with different toys, making up different imaginary stories and decorations for the dolls. Jeannie was interested in me, and she generously shared her toys with me. Then we weren't interested in dolls anymore, and we went to the river and to the movies together, played ball and other outdoor games with our peers. Jeannie always felt prettier and more talented. She was always the center of attention, but I didn't pay attention to that because I was very naive and modest. When we were 16, we used to go to the discos together, and Jeannie would give me her outfits and makeup because she always knew how to look perfect, and I would make us different jewelry and make beads, pendants, different bracelets out of the different materials. Jeannie never took me seriously and thought my love for creativity was worthless. She herself liked to spend more time with boys and hang out. That's why after school, I went to study jewelry, which was a profession I liked. It took Jeannie a long time to decide where she wanted to study. She wasn't looking for a profession by preference, but for comfort and a good profit margin. So her mother advised her to go to school as an accountant. It was warm and bright and not difficult. I do not think that the profession of an accountant suited her, but she did not care about it. She thought that the profession did not matter because in the future she would just find a wealthy husband and would not need to work. However, despite the fact that the profession is quiet and comfortable, Jeannie then reconsidered her choice. She got a job after her studies at a firm. The pay was good, but the director was dishonest in his business. Naturally, Jeannie was involved in it. She was in charge of all the accounting. The competitors leaked the information to the tax authorities, and shortly thereafter, an unexpected inspection came. The director was off the hook, and Jeannie was facing jail time. Jenny and I weren't really in touch by then, and she called me out of the blue. "Hi, I realize we haven't seen each other in a while, but I really need your help right now. Can we meet?" "Hi, yeah, sure. I'm free this weekend. We can meet after 5 p.m. I'll call you at lunch to decide the meeting place, okay?" "Yeah, great. I always knew you'd be there for me anytime." By then, I'd met my boyfriend, Oscar, a young but talented lawyer. We were just starting a relationship, and at that time, I was the happiest woman in the world around him. We met at a coffee shop, and he took the initiative to talk to me, and so we started our relationship. He was always very attentive, constantly showered me with gifts, took me to restaurants, surrounded me with care and warmth. I couldn't believe how it would end. So we met with Jeannie, and she told me about her situation at work, and I generously agreed to help her with the problem. I talked to Austin, and he was happy to help my friend. He had worked with these cases before and had no trouble winning the lawsuit. She was over the moon that we helped her, and we've been inseparable ever since. 2 years later, I married Oscar. He was doing very well, and we gradually improved our standard of living. Jeannie, after everything that had happened to her, decided not to get involved with finances anymore. She took up a new profession, a tour operator. She went to work abroad for 5 years, and when she returned, Jeannie was unrecognizable, well-groomed, beautiful, wealthy lady. Her eyes shone and her figure was just perfect. She told me a lot about how she traveled around the world, saw different beautiful women, and tried to match them, went to the gym, got a tan, bought expensive bags, cosmetics, clothes. She certainly knew a lot about fashion. So it's not surprising that she changed so much. She was always drawn to the world of luxury and beauty. My husband and I lived in a nice cottage outside the city with a swimming pool, and we drove an expensive Mercedes S-Class. Jeannie never knew how to manage money, so she didn't save any money from tours, and she inherited from her grandmother a small studio apartment in a bedroom community, and she rode the subway. Not surprisingly, if all the money she spent on her beloved, it is strange, but after several years of traveling, she had never found a man, probably too busy with herself. And then the crisis hit the travel industry, and Jeannie literally went on bread and water. When she came to see us, I could feel her envy devaluing everything I said about our life, our plans, our accomplishments. She just couldn't believe that we could ever swap places with her. I mean, as a kid, she never needed anything and her future seemed preordained. Wow, girlfriend didn't expect you to be able to get out of poverty into such a mansion. And when did you manage it? Very lucky you. Well, I wouldn't say that I lived in poverty, and my husband and I worked hard to live the way we do now. What are you going to earn from your trinkets? Why did you pretend to have a husband from a rich family? I told you I worked hard together with my husband. Oh, Jeannie, let's have dinner and tell me about yourself at the same time. Jeannie was a little surprised that she lost so much time while we were working and arranging our life, but she didn't give up because her self-esteem is always high. So she first tried to meet someone from my husband Oscar's wealthy circle, but nothing worked out for her. Most of them were already married. Others just had fun with her, and it all lasted about a year, and she was constantly nervous and didn't understand what was wrong with her if she couldn't find a rich husband for herself. Well, how is it that you found such a successful husband so easily? I've been working my butt off to find one just like that, and nothing works. Can't they see what a diamond they have in front of their noses? Maybe you should get a good job and fulfill yourself, and then that one will come along. What nonsense? What job? Are you crazy if I start working too? When will I have time for myself? That's not really an option for me. Well, whatever, I would take advice if I were you. Well, apparently Jeannie was up to no good as it turned out later. She got tired of waiting and decided to take action. Oscar was very calm and sensible, and I never thought he'd cheat on me. He was often at home and always came home from work like clockwork. I was never jealous of him and Jeannie because I trusted them. But Jeannie couldn't stop thinking about getting a sponsor husband as soon as possible, and apparently she was so consumed with the idea that she was up to no good. And so, I began to notice more often a sharp interest in Oscar from her side. She began to come to us more often, to spend the night at our place, to dress very frankly. When Oscar was in the same room with her, I could only hear her loud laughter. At first, Oscar tried to avoid her and went to his office. But I noticed that more and more they were finding common ground and common interests. I didn't take it personally. On the contrary, I was glad that my husband was starting to treat my friend well. But Jeannie constantly started making inappropriate remarks to me in front of my husband. Mia, why can't you go around in these clothes? This dress was fashionable 10 years ago and you're still wearing it. I like this dress. I don't follow fashion. I dress the way I feel comfortable, and it suits me. What do you think, Oscar? I don't know. It's just a dress, just an ordinary dress. It's just a dress. You see, there's nothing good to say about it, but I take care of myself. I just bought lace underwear. I'll show you later, Mia. Well, I knew I had become less groomed about my appearance lately, but discussing it around my husband and then talking about my underwear became a red flag for me. Jeannie kept asking Oscar to take her somewhere, pick her up, and so on. She became too much a part of our lives. We didn't have children for certain reasons, so Jeannie decided that Oscar and I were bored and was at our house all the time. Oscar, your cufflinks are so cool. Can I fix them? Mom, come on, Maya never pays attention to little things, though she might have noticed that they need fixing. Oh, Maya has always been like that, and it's not hard for me to help you at all. Oh, what's that perfume you have? It smells really good. Thanks for your help, Jeannie. I should be going now. If anything, I know who to turn to. There were many situations like this, and I watched with great interest where their nice conversations would lead. I had my reasons for not making a fuss over nothing, so I silently pretended not to notice. But it upset me to think that my friend could change my opinion of her so quickly, and all because of some money, despite the fact that I always supported her when she had a hard time. When her first boyfriend broke up with her, I came to her at night and supported her even though I knew that I would get in trouble from my parents for leaving at night. When I was having a hard time, I always took the time to help her to my detriment. Same situation with the court, even though she and I weren't in contact at the time I came to her for help. It was my birthday coming up, and I decided to celebrate with a little company and invited Jeannie. She showed up all dressed up in a long evening gown with a deep cleavage. All the men stared at her, and the women pressed their lips together in displeasure. But not me. I complimented Jeannie from the bottom of my heart. The party was held in the garden. Rose petals were strewn across the table, and candles were lit in crystal candlesticks. Lamps and garlands of lights hung on the trees. A shish kebab was being cooked in the fireplace stove. All the guests acted cheerfully and casually, and when it got dark and the music started, Jeannie asked my husband to a slow dance with my permission. She knew how to dance, that's one thing, and she was able to give a master class. After that, Oscar looked at my friend with different eyes. He even kissed her hand goodbye. Now Oscar no longer retired to his office when Jeannie was visiting. He enjoyed sharing company with Jeannie every day. I began to notice something going on between them. But I kept quiet and didn't throw tantrums because I knew if there was something going on between them, I wouldn't lose anything. The thing was, life with Oscar was not easy for me. Oscar, who seemed all intellectual, calm, and reasonable, in fact, suffered from attacks of aggression. I didn't realize right away that I was in an abusive relationship, and sometimes I got a lot of abuse from him. Then I would lock myself in the house for a while, and I wouldn't see anyone to cover up the bruises and abrasions. And my professional activities allowed me to work remotely. More often than not, such seemingly decent family men can turn out not to be what they're used to seeing, and I never would have thought that after marriage, such a seemingly caring and kind man could do this to me and do it regularly and harshly. And we did not have children for the same reason once I got pregnant, but my husband, in a fit of rage, pushed me, I fell and lost the baby. Since then, I have been protecting myself. I don't want to have children from such a man. I would not want my children to see such behavior from their father with respect to a woman. They would consider such behavior the norm, and who knows how I would continue from life with such mental trauma. But I could not file for divorce. He threatened that he would not leave me alone, and if I tried to hide, he would take revenge on my sister. My little sister was much younger, only 16 years old. I was afraid that Oscar would be willing to hire scumbags who could do serious harm to her. I didn't tell anyone about my real life, not just Jeannie, not even my parents. My father had a weak heart, and I feared for his life. Living with a man like that was like living in a golden cage. On the one hand, we lived in posh conditions, but on the other, I received no love and care at all, but lived in constant fear. So my spouse's flirting with Jeannie was good for me. Not that I didn't feel sorry for my friend. Otherwise, I would have warned her. But Jeannie herself blatantly was going after him with no idea where it would lead her. And the first thing I did was put hidden cameras in the house. I pretended to be sick and went away to a nursing home for a week. After I came back and watched the tapes, I had a trump card in my hands. Even though Oscar is a lawyer, he made the grave mistake of underestimating me. He and Jeannie had made a mess of things, and there was evidence of cheating on him. I filed for divorce, Jeannie cheered, and Oscar clutched his head and realized what he had done. After all, we had a wedding contract that if one spouse cheated, all the property would go to the other spouse. The day of the divorce, Jeannie packed her bags, waiting to move into our house. But Oscar came to her with a suitcase himself, and I texted her, "Thank you, dear friend, for stealing my tyrant and cheating husband. Now I will live happily ever after. Be happy for you too, if you can." The first thing I did was to hire a guard. Oscar was caught trying to kill me. To avoid going to jail, he promised he'd go far away and never come back to my life again. He was disbarred. I never saw Jeannie again, but I know she had her hands full with him before he disappeared from both of her friends' horizons. She tried to gain my trust again, but it didn't work out. Soon I remarried and had 2 adorable daughters. Jeannie was still alone after 2 failed marriages.